Anyone thinking the Irish are lucky needs to get their hands on a history book. Anonymous. It's St. Patrick's Day. In case anyone forgot, the streamers outside, the shamrock decorations in the windows, and the roving gangs of singing drunk idiots were there to remind you. I'd never needed a reminder. St. Patrick's was the day I went to see my grandma for the first and only time. It was the first time I'd been on a plane. It was the first time I'd been outside the US. Lots of firsts. I remember her eyes, blue with a sheen of gray, like waves from a cloudy ocean. Even though it was years ago, the scenes still stand out. Sitting on her lap in the rocking chair, her singing. She sang of the hills and the woods. She sang of sunrises peeking over the horizon of the cliffs. She sang of the sorrows of the famine and the Virgin's blue shawl draped over her son's troubled world. I was too young to understand, but she was a nice old lady and her voice was sweet. When I waved my little hands goodbye from atop my dad's shoulders, I could see her crying. I wasn't sad. I was going home. This place was cold and it rained all the time. Why was she sad? I thought. My parents died in a car crash a few years later. My brother and I were moved to my aunt and uncle's place out west. By the time we were 20 and 22, cancer had taken Aunt Mary, and the stress of the cancer had taken Uncle Brian. Once they were 6 feet under, we were the only ones left. Us and Grandma. She must have been in her 90s by that point, so I didn't really expect her to shoot us an email. So, essentially, it was just us. After Uncle Brian's funeral, there was nothing really keeping us together besides a family name. We split up. Booze and pills took my brother last year. He just couldn't cope. I'd like to say his death broke me and I couldn't get out of bed for weeks, but it didn't. Once I'd moved, what little connection I'd had with him was gone. A Christmas card, a phone call on my birthday. That was basically it. My life had become me, my apartment, and my job. Get up, go to work, come home, dick around on the internet, go to sleep. Rinse, repeat. No ups, no downs. Coasting through on that sweet, sweet middle ground. I was walking home from work that night. I'd made bank. You'd be surprised how well finance bros and red-faced hedge fund managers tip when they're 6 picklebacks deep on the third verse of Molly Malone. I was always nervous carrying around that much cash, so I walked the extra 3 blocks to the ATM inside the bank. You had to swipe your card to get in, so it felt marginally safer. Transaction done, I turned around and headed towards the door. Looking up from the receipt in my hand, through the glass, I saw a woman standing outside. She wore a long white dress. It was beautiful, but in tatters. Her young face seemed strange given her long white hair. She was staring at me. People celebrate St. Pat's in their own way, I guess. I opened the door to the bank and stepped outside. I glanced around to see if she was with anybody. Nothing but dark, empty streets faintly illuminated by streetlights. We stood across from each other. I called out to her. "You waiting for someone?" She smiled. "Yes." I stood around awkwardly, searching for something to say. You gonna be alright till they get here?" Her smile remained. "They're not coming. I'm just waiting for them." "Oh, okay, well, happy St. Pat's. Don't have too much fun," I said, and started to walk away. I looked back as I made my way down the lonely street. She was staring straight back at me. Wanting to be off the street and out of her sightline, I quickly rounded a corner, walked down the stairs to the subway, and got on. I checked the time on my cell as I set my apartment keys down on the kitchen table. The screen lit up. 4:15 a.m. Well, I work the night shift tomorrow so I can sleep in a little. I took a shower, got my PJs on, and went over to my bedroom window to drop the shades. I peered through and almost had a heart attack. Looking down across the street, I could see that woman in white was staring up at me through my window. Had she followed me? I was about to open my window and tell her to just try Tinder next time, when something happened. Even from across the street, I could see her start to have a strange look on her face. Like she was scared. Then, in the blink of an eye, she was standing on my bed facing me. I tried not to panic and reached for my phone. A surprisingly strong hand clamped down over mine to stop me. I felt my hand start to burn and ripped it out of her grasp. Looking up, she seemed to stretch. Her limbs grew thin and spindly. Her skull could almost be seen in perfect clarity through the taut skin extended to its limits. Her mouth seemed to expand. Her skin tore as her mouth grew wider and wider, blood spilling all over her immaculate dress. Before I had a chance to react, she grabbed both sides of my face. I tried to wrench them off me, but they wouldn't budge. All I could do was watch as she opened her massive, blood-stained mouth. Her eyes rolled back, and sound started to make its way out of her ruptured throat. I'd never heard anything like it. 1,000,000 razor blades inside my ears. It felt like it was trying to bore holes inside my mind. My vision started to get blurry, and I threw up. I started yelling and flailing around like a fox in a trap. Suddenly, it stopped. The pressure on the sides of my face was gone. I blinked furiously and rubbed my eyes. My sight stabilizing, my eyes dashed around. I was alone. Just me, my apartment, and a pool of vomit. I shakily ran to the window and looked down across the street. No one. Empty. I saw a faint reflection of myself in the window, bloodshot eyes and red face staring back at me. I stumbled to the bathroom for a better look. My cheeks had burn marks. I tried touching them, but it was agony. I opened my medicine cabinet and got out some bandages. Closing the cabinet, burn cream in hand, I faced the mirror. The burns were gone. I fell back onto the floor. I think I'm losing my mind. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I spent the night online. As stupid and insane as it sounds, I think I know what happened. Old Country, one of the favorites around the pub. Banshee. High-pitched, sorrowful wailing. Well, that's an understatement. Only shows up right before someone's about to pop off. One of your family, your blood. Grandma. Now I really am all that's left. A phone call woke me up after I'd fallen asleep at the keyboard. It was from a hospital in Ireland. They said that I was the only contact on my grandmother's file they could reach. She'd had a fall in her house. It'd been hours before they found her. They said it was a miracle she was still alive considering her advanced age. They gave credit to good genes, but told me that due to her age, she could pass at any time. I was about to hang up, but on a whim, I asked, "Do you know anything about banshees?" The woman on the other end of the line seemed surprised but amused. "Banshees now? Writing a book, are we?" "No, just curious." "Well, pray you never see one. They only show up when someone's about to die. Taking into account your Nana's condition, she'll technically be at death's door for at least 3 months. I'd imagine that might confuse the simple creature. But these things are fairy tales. No need to worry about that." I said goodbye and hung up. I sat in the living room. The sunlight was beginning to disappear. With a knot in my stomach, I got up and went to the window. Looking down, I was greeted by a wide smile in a white dress.